The assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk on September 10th was an event that absolutely shocked the country. So today, we're going to break it all down. We'll look at the timeline of the attack, the investigation that followed, and the evidence prosecutors say points to a pretty clear motive. And all of this is based on official charging documents and law enforcement statements. So let's get into it.
Right from the get-go, authorities were making one thing crystal clear. This was not some random act of violence. They used the phrase targeted attack, and that's huge. It immediately changed the entire focus of the investigation, right? It wasn't just who did this, it was why target him specifically? So when you look at the timeline from that day, it's just chilling. The suspect's car was spotted on campus surveillance hours before Charlie Kirk even started speaking. Then, just before noon, he's seen going into the Lucy Center. And at exactly 12:23 p.m., a single shot is fired from the roof. That shot strikes Kirk in the neck. The shooter then jumps off the roof, runs into some nearby woods, and just vanishes. And that's what kicked off this massive manhunt. Okay, so to really get the full picture here, you have to understand the two people at the absolute center of this. On one hand, you've got the victim, a major national political figure. And on the other, the suspect, a young guy who really nobody had ever heard of before that day.
And I mean, when you put them side by side, the contrast it's just wild. You've got Charlie Kirk, right? 31 years old, a conservative firebrand, co-founder of Turning Point USA, and a well-known ally of former President Trump. And then you have Tyler Robinson. He's 22, an electrical apprentice. He's registered as an unaffiliated voter, and importantly, had no history of violent offenses. Two completely different worlds.
All right, so the shooter is gone, he's fled the scene, and this huge manhunt kicks off. But the way they caught him, well, it wasn't some dramatic police chase. It was actually a series of really crucial steps that led to a peaceful surrender just a few days later.
So how did it all go down? Well, the FBI released some surveillance photos of the person they were looking for. And believe it or not, it was Robinson's own father who saw the pictures and recognized his son. The father then reached out to a family friend, a youth pastor, who also happened to work as a court security officer, to try and step in. That pastor was the one who helped make contact with law enforcement. And from there, Robinson surrendered to U.S. Marshals without a fight. Just an incredible turn of events, really.
Now, at the scene and in those woods where the suspect fled, investigators found a ton of physical evidence. We're talking a Mauser bolt-action rifle found wrapped in a towel that had DNA on it. They lifted palm prints off the side of the building where he climbed down. And this is really significant. They found inscriptions on the bullet casing that was fired and on several other unfired bullets as well.
So, they have a suspect in custody. They have a mountain of evidence. But the biggest question of all was still hanging in the air. Why? And that brings us to what might be the most critical part of this entire story, uncovering the alleged motive.
So what do prosecutors actually think drove this attack? What was the reason?
Well, according to the official charging documents, the whole case for the motive really hinges on this one text message. It was allegedly sent by Tyler Robinson to his romantic partner. After being asked why he did it, his reported reply was this: "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out."
So that text message, that's the cornerstone of the prosecution's entire argument. Now let's dig into the other evidence they've brought forward to really build that case.
Okay, so prosecutors are painting a very specific picture here. It all starts with that text message, obviously, but it goes deeper. His own mother told investigators that he'd recently become, quote, more pro-gay and trans rights oriented and was leaning left politically. This apparently created a lot of friction at home with his father, who Robinson described as a die-hard MAGA supporter. And then there's this really critical piece. Court documents show that Robinson was in a romantic relationship with a partner who is transgender. So you can see how prosecutors are connecting a personal element to the very topics Kirk was known for speaking out against. So what does this all mean in a court of law? Well, it's a huge deal. The charge against Robinson is aggravated murder, which in Utah can carry the death penalty. And one of the key aggravating factors that prosecutors are using to justify that charge is their claim that he targeted Charlie Kirk specifically, quote, based on Charlie Kirk's political expression. They are officially framing this as a politically motivated assassination. At the end of the day, the case the prosecutors are building, it raises a question that really gets to the heart of this whole tragedy. The evidence they've presented seems to paint a picture of a young man whose personal life and his changing political beliefs clashed, allegedly, with the public rhetoric of a major political figure. And it kind of leaves us all to think about what an event like this really tells us about that dangerous intersection between personal conviction and political violence, especially in the world we live in today.